not giving our own citizens, when they get wrongfully detained around the world, our own citizens the due process that they deserve?
Number one, I delineate between American citizens and everyone else. If you're a U.S. citizen, I put you in a different category.
On due process, that's not a distinction that the law makes,
Then if you've come here and broken our laws and committed violent acts or murdered and raped and whatever, I put you in a different category.
When it comes to the law and due process, that is not a distinction.
Well, if you'd like to argue that Trinidad or Aragua should have the same rights that you get as an American citizen, go ahead.
I don't change the Constitution.
Hold on a second.
The
argument
so
is
you're saying that a terrorist can walk across the border and become effectively a U.S. citizen?
That's not what I'm saying.
Hold on. Scott, look at me. Okay.
Yeah, let's give the host her
you and I are talking.
respect.
You and I are
Let's give her
talking.
respect.
Okay.
How rude! I mean, how incredibly rude that was of Abby Phillip. The American hero Scott Jennings. I am a real American. The American hero was clearly speaking. The star amongst unknowns was clearly trying to make a point. The host of the show was attempting to speak to his audience, which is one of the few audiences on CNN that's actually showing signs of life. And some lady named Abby Phillip kept interrupting the American hero. Well, Casey, that's because Abby Phillip is the host of the show. Scott Jennings is her guest. Yeah, Abby Phillip is the host of the show. For now. Clearly, CNN isn't exactly married to Abby Phillip. Her name isn't even included in the title of the show. The real star of the show is Scott Jennings, who is now consistently beating Caitlin Collins in the ratings. Katie Woo! Katie Woo! And it's not hard to figure out why. It's not hard to figure out why Scott Jennings is growing while everything else on CNN is circling the pooper. The American hero is offering something different. For the dozens of people still watching the Cemetery News Network, Scott Jennings is a breath of fresh air. While Katie Rue Collins, she is still regurgitating the same woke talking points that were rejected by normal people back in November. Like I have said many times before, cackling Cam Harris, she was not the biggest loser in the election. The biggest loser was the mainstream media. Immediately after the election, ratings at CNN and MSNBC declined by around 50%. They literally lost half of their audience in the span of about 24 hours. Now, they have managed to rebound slightly since November, but as you're about to see, their ratings aren't anywhere close to where they used to be. And there's a reason for that. The media is refusing to adapt. But KC, the media is adapting. MSNBC fired the Wicked Weave Joy Reid. That alone was a major step in the right direction. Yeah, MSNBC did fire the Weave. But then they turned around and replaced her with Simon Sanders. On one hand, I guess this was the right decision by MSNBC. By firing Joy Reid, they risked losing lonely men who were attracted to balding beauties. Replacing Joy Reid with Simone Sanders, it pretty much guarantees that those lonely men will be satisfied. The problem is, Simone Sanders is a watered-down version of Joy Reid. It's the same mythical racism, it's just less dramatic. At least when Joy Reid was in prime time, MSNBC was generating headlines throughout the media. It has been almost 2 months since MSNBC forced Joy Reid to turn in her broom and find another method of transportation. MSNBC temporarily replaced her with something called MSNBC Prime. How often have you heard about that show? Hell, in the last 2 months, how often have you heard about Rachel Maddow or Little Red Riding Hood Jen Psaki? More than likely, you haven't. And there's a reason for that. Fewer and fewer people are watching MSNBC, and even less are watching CNN. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. This morning on the second channel, talked about Shannon Sharpe and his pretend friends in the media completely misrepresenting a press conference involving Kim Mulkey. And by completely misrepresenting, I mean they pretty much lied. At minimum, this was an oversight or outright incompetence, but there's also the possibility that the media misrepresented Kim Mulkey because it fits their narrative. According to the media, Kim Mulkey's a mean white lady. I show you what actually happened with Kim Mulkey at her press conference Sunday night. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Headline at TV Insider: MSNBC gets unexpected ratings boost as Fox News and CNN ratings decline. We are so back. This is absolutely incredible. Grab the big stiffy. Let's play the butt bongo. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. TV Insider is right. This was an unexpected ratings boost for MSNBC, or as normal people would call it, a non-existent ratings boost. Once again, the media is giving us a partial truth, or as we call it here on the channel, the shit sandwich. Yes, MSNBC saw a minuscule increase in the 25 to 54 demo if you compare their ratings to the previous week. But that's like comparing their ratings to the WNBA. It's the equivalent of comparing nothing to almost nothing. When analyzing ratings, you don't compare to the previous week. You compare ratings to the previous year. And in that case, it is abundantly clear that MSNBC is still struggling to draw flies to a fresh turd. Last week, MSNBC averaged 1.1 million viewers in prime time with 107,000 in the key demo. Ratings are down 9% in prime time and 25% overall. But the good news for MSNBC, they finally managed to beat CNN in the demo last week after weeks of CNN bruising their caboose. CNN averaged 523,000 in prime time, 99,000 in the key demo. Their ratings were also down 9%, while ratings in the key demo, they were down 1%. They were basically flat compared to last year. Well, Casey, of course ratings are down. They were competing with March Madness. Nothing can compete with March Madness besides the women's tournament. Women's college basketball is still a huge draw. You know, it's strange. This time last year, ratings for the women's tournament, it was the leading story throughout the mainstream media. But this year, not only have their ratings barely been mentioned, they're also hard to find. I wonder why. But you're right. You're right. CNN, MSNBC, they were competing with March Madness last week, and that is the excuse that the media will use for their ratings decline. Hell, over the last 5 months, I have heard plenty of excuses, nothing but excuses. After the election, it was viewer fatigue. Then they accused their audience of being sore losers. Then it was the holidays, the NFL playoffs, fake wrestling moving to Netflix, the lunar moon lining up with Aquarius, the rings of Saturn cuddling with Uranus. There always seems to be an excuse. The media always has someone else to blame, but it's strange, because I never hear these excuses with Fox News. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that Fox News continues to break records. Last week, Fox averaged almost 3 million viewers in prime time, 345,000 in the key demo. Prime time ratings were up 50%, while Fox News, they grew the demo by 81%. Now, keep in mind, last year was an election year, which means Fox is posting massive gains over massive gains from last year. Hell, Fox averaged 1.8 million viewers during the day, which is more than CNN and MSNBC's primetime audience combined. The only people at home during the day are soccer mom Tom and her out-of-work husband Brenda. Yet somehow, daytime ratings at Fox News are dominating primetime ratings at the other two polished turds. The question is, why? How is this possible? Have you guys ever been to an AA meeting before? When I got my first DUI back in 2006, I was court-ordered to attend AA meetings. To be honest with you, it was a good experience. You would be surprised at how many successful people are members of AA. But anyway, one of the first steps when you're joining AA, you have to be willing to admit that you have a problem. I know it sounds simple, but most people will tell you that it's the hardest step. It's hard to admit you have a problem and you need help. It's hard to admit that you have a problem and you don't know what to do about it. One of the reasons the mainstream media continues to struggle, they refuse to admit they have a problem. They have spent the last 5 months blaming everyone else for their ratings declines. They have blamed all these external factors when the entire time, the biggest problem has been internal. America sent a clear message in November. We reject the woke fungus. Yet for some reason, MSNBC continues to embrace the wiener, and they wonder why fewer and fewer people are watching the network. Ironically enough, CNN has given them the formula. Find a normal person like Scott Jennings, put them on a panel against 4 deacons at Woke United Methodist, hire a host that will stay out of the way, which means stay the hell away from Molly Karam, and let the normal person go to work dissecting the deacons. To make matters worse for MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, he is now asking for a raise. Larry returned from his vacation in Ireland where he attempted to water the garden of his pretend wife Rose O'Donnell. Wasn't a lot of gardening going on, and there damn sure wasn't any foreplay. But Rose did give pretend husband Larry an inspiring idea. This is the perfect time to ask for a raise. Ratings are down, revenue is down, your value's at an all-time low. Now is the time to demand more money. Now, in her defense, Rosie O'Donnell is an expert at being unemployed. If you're ever looking to be fired from a job, Rose should be your first call. Larry O'Connell is demanding that MSNBC pay him $25 million a year, and he wants to work significantly less. Basically, he wants the exact same contract as Rachel Maddow. Unfortunately for Larry, MSNBC doesn't quite see it the same way. For starters, Larry doesn't check enough woke boxes. Matter of fact, since Larry is an old white dude, he doesn't check any woke boxes. Plus, Larry has lost almost 1 million viewers since last year. Ratings drastically down, while Larry wants his salary to drastically increase. I have a feeling that Larry O'Connell will be moving in permanently with Rose here very soon. But give me your thoughts on this. CNN, MSNBC continue to struggle. Fox News has increased their ratings dominance. Larry O'Connell is demanding a significant raise. Will Larry be joining Joy Reid in the unemployment line? Will Lawrence O'Donnell be the next to be fired by MSNBC? Also, what do you think MSNBC can do to increase their ratings? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.